Good evening, Fergus. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks, Cindy. I've been talking to you today twice. We've been blabbing already, and I've been talking to the inventors of blab, which is fantastic. And what we're going to talk about tonight for everybody is when is a speaker not a speaker.
Now, what do we mean by that?
Well, there's various types of speaker. There's the ones who put you to sleep, right? We all know those. Everybody who's ever been to school, university, anything like that, they're watching somebody doing a presentation and it's something they really, really need to learn, and they fall asleep. Why? Because that speaker is not engaging their unconscious mind.
The person at the front, standing in front of them all, imparting
and they're going,
information.
Blah, 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 and you go, oh, no, I need that information, but you're not delivering it to me in a way that I can handle. So that's a speaker who's not a speaker, really.
Yeah, but then you get several different types of speakers who are not speakers, though.
Yes, you do. And unfortunately, you get the professors, right? And I remember I was doing a thing for, I won't say which medical industry it was because it might nail me, but there was somebody speaking before me for an hour, and they were talking about all the law related to this particular medical industry. And they had huge slides up with like 400 words on each slide, and they read through the slides.
No.
And they overrun by half an hour. By the time I came on stage, the audience was in a coma, basically, because they'd been reading these slides and listening to the person reading their own slides, because that's not a speaker, right? The person who reads stuff off a slide, or even reads it off a speech in front of them plus a slide, that's not a speaker at all. That is not a speaker. That's one type of not a speaker.
That's just now that is what I would call a straightforward presenter. That is low level, because all they're doing is representing the information that they've been given in one format or another.
Yeah, and this particular one, it was law to do with a particular medical industry. But they could have talked about it in a way that worked for the audience, and they didn't. They just read it and they said, look at this slide. Well, they didn't actually say, look at this slide, but they were just presenting slides for an audience. That was all they were doing. That is not a speaker.
Exactly. But then there are people that are brought in at the last minute to represent and regurgitate somebody else's information. So that's all they have to go on is just the slides that were there before. Yeah.
But saying that, I was actually called in by the largest rail company in this country to train the management team. Okay. And it was a half-day training. And I'd been trained up by the commercial director, who was very, very good, who told me what each person did. And one of the people was in charge of looking after the stations and getting new stations, because they owned like 400 stations, but they rented another 150. Okay.
Yeah.
And so he said to me, okay, how would you present what I do to, excuse me, to the stakeholders of our company? I said, okay. And I went into it. I said, look, we own 480 stations. We rent another 250. We need to do some rebuilding of our stations. We are really important, and we need to make it work well for the people who come to the station. We don't want them to have a bad time. So how can we make it better for them to have a good time? That was it. That's all I said. He said, oh, can you come and do my presentations for me? Because all I did was the essence of what he did when he spoke to stakeholders. And it was like 6 sentences. Now, I don't know what he does. I've got no idea what he does. But it's getting to the absolute nitty-gritty of what the audience needs and wants, basically.
Now, what you have just described is one of the things that I did when I first joined the speaking industry, is that we actually helped a very well-known breakfast cereal where they were having their AGM, and we actually put in a television presenter who's well known for presenting and fronting crime and news articles.
Okay, yeah.
And the guy just basically did the presentation that the CEO would have done at the stakeholders meeting.
Yeah.
And because the speaker, who is professional and is seen as trustworthy and all about facts-based data and information, because he summed it up at the end saying, look, we're not in a bad place, but we do need to work harder, need to work smarter, and the sales have got to go up. The company actually responded far better to him making that call than the CEO making that call.
Yeah.
And it was because people trusted him, because he was an outsider saying it, but it was somebody that they knew to present valid information, as opposed to the CEO, because it was, oh, you're just going to say that anyway.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's an outside view. Yeah. And that's probably why my one worked, which that man probably couldn't have done for the rail company that I could. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's somebody else giving validation.
Yeah.
But secondly, Fergus, you're also a professional speaker. You're not just a speaker. No.
I get paid to speak, which is nice. Yeah.
Well, that's also part of being a professional, but it's also, for example, I was doing some judging yesterday. And
really? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I had to judge an award. Anyway. Okay. And one of the questions that kind of came up was, out of the speakers we were looking, when is somebody a professional, or when are they a speaker trainer, or when are they a speaker presenter?
Now, this is a very, very interesting topic, because I talked about it to our mutual friend, John Hatauka, who will come on here at some point. And he's just started doing some workshops, which he's never done before. And he said he's found he can do it because he was always a keynote speaker. And when I was in Iran 5 years ago, speaking with another mutual friend of ours, Graham Codrington, who's a really top keynote speaker, he said, Fergus, I can tell you're a trainer speaker. And I said, what do you mean, Graham? Is that are you downing me? He said, no. But what comes across when you're with an audience is that you're interacting with them much more than I do. As in, I'm doing a presentation, you're doing a sharing with the audience. So I want lots of feedback. I want hecklers. I want people to say things. I want them to do things. And my great friend, Alan Pease, walked into the audience. He became my friend in Iran, and he's a wonderful bloke. He went straight into the audience. We all decided, the four of us who were speaking, not to stand on the stage at all, really, because we were in the Ayatollah's parliamentary headquarters, and there's this huge bit of flat land underneath the stage, and we said, no, we're not going on stage at all. I went on there twice to demonstrate a walk, but what we did, we interacted with the audience all the time. And that's a different type of speaking, and you've got to have content. And I played characters for Alan Pease and other people. He got people out of the audience to play characters. So he's doing an hour and a half speech, but he's also got members of the audience up with him, doing it with him. And that's what I do. So it's a sort of training speech.
Absolutely. But then you see, you're also giving hints, tips, steps. Go and try this. If you're having, try that. So it's actual, not just straightforward engaging. You're actually giving tools away whilst you're on the stage.
Yeah.
But the difference between you and a presenter who can do that to a certain degree is that if you're put on the spot by a heckler, it's clear that your knowledge is deep.
Yeah, I love hecklers. It's great because they give me a chance to say more. Whereas a presenter who's presenting something that isn't theirs, they'd have to cut them off and they'd panic.
Absolutely, because they actually don't have that level and that deep, that depth of knowledge. They're very good at skimming, very good at reading a whole area and then feeding back just synthesized information in a quick self-help guide. But when it comes to actually, I've got this problem, what do you recommend? That's when they start having a bit of a problem.
Actually, you saying that, I mean, I've seen the occasional Strictly Come Dancing woman in a micro skirt with very high heels walking around pulling people onto stage. Nice legs, but apart from that, nothing. Lots and lots of blonde hair, big teeth, and no brain. And she has a very short script to say, come on here, Fred, or Fabrizio. Come on here, Fabrizio. You've danced very well in the last 5 minutes. And then the judges talk and they say, oh, aren't you wonderful? And off they go. They can't do anything else because that's all that they're very good at it. Well, if you like that stuff, I don't. But they're trained at standing up and being a parrot for somebody else's words and reading an auto cue.
Yes.
And if you think of, there's a morning show, don't ask me what it's called, I've got no idea, I've only seen it a few times, but there's this Welsh woman with huge teeth and an Irish man, right? He does the main interviews and she sits there staring at the audio cue. Oh, well, it's very good, isn't it? And the Prime Minister of England, David Cameron, went on that show and he shredded them. It was terrifying to see. He just did whatever he wanted for 20 minutes. So oh, thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. And they didn't know what he was doing. He was using the show for a presentation. Now, I'm not saying that I'm pro or anti-Conservatives or Labour or any party. I just watched a smooth professional type person eat the two so-called interviewers because, as you said, they were only presenters.
Yes.
So all they had was what was coming into their ear from the control room. And if nothing good came into their ear, they couldn't deliver it because they weren't doing any thinking. And so the difference between a speaker and not a speaker, as you've rightly put, a speaker isn't a presenter. They've got a depth of knowledge of their field and they're ready to share it. Now, interestingly, saying that, Graham Codrington is a fantastic speaker with incredible depth. Dr. Graham Codrington, with a huge depth of knowledge of the X industry, the gene types anyway, the different generations, the X generation, the Y, the Z, and so on.
Okay.
But he doesn't want any feedback from the audience because he's prepared something incredibly detailed and he just wants to say it and share it and dance around on stage and do air guitar and share some wonderful stuff. But he doesn't want anyone to talk to him at all. Whereas me, I want to share with the audience. Alan Pease wants to share with the audience. So it's interesting. When is a speaker not a speaker? Well, there are two types of speaker, which is a great content speaker, like Graham Codrington, or a sharing one, like Nigel Risner, like Alan Pease, like me, who actually plays with the audience all the way through.
Okay. Well, could we also actually argue then, and here's the devil's advocate, that for anyone who has to get up in front of an audience at some point, they become a speaker. It's just a different type of speaker that they become. So you could argue that if you have to give a presentation, so virtually every entrepreneur will at some point have to give a presentation. Be it at networking with their 2 minutes of fame of saying what they do.
I train lots of those.
Down to doing a presentation to the bank manager as to why they actually need the loan.
Yep.
And then you get your professionals that then take it to the next stage where in actual fact the whole business is about speaking.
I think you're right, because I do train a lot of those entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs on and off, not all the time. I'm not going to show off and say, oh my God, I did 20 million pounds this year. No, not true. But I do train entrepreneurs and business owners and sometimes CEOs of huge companies, as you know. And those people don't know how to present stuff. I'm, if you like, a sort of slut in that I can present anything. Just give me the script and I'll present it. It can be about particle physics. I don't care, because it's the difference between we've got content speakers who are talking about their own topic, right? We've got presenters who are just copying a speech, basically, and they'll be knackered if they're asked to do anything which isn't in the script. They'll crash. Okay, they're just presenters, nothing else. They need the earpiece or they need the script. Okay, so they're just presenters. They are not speakers. Okay. And you've got the people who share, whether it's their own stuff or someone else's, they spend a bit of time learning about it and share it. So I was going to say they're passionate about their stuff, but they're also experts in them as well. Yeah, I'm an expert in my stuff, certainly, but I can share anybody else's stuff because I'm trained as a speaker, as you said. Yeah. So I can present somebody else's stuff very easily because I've got the speaker training. So what's the difference between you as an expert in a particular field? Why is it that you can present and somebody who is, let's say, a management consultant who is an expert in their field, most of them are actually, well, I won't say most of them, there's a lot of them that think they can speak. Yeah. And they've got the passion there, but in actual fact, they're the guys who put you to sleep. Yeah. Because
they are doing and presenting on their topic, and with the idea that you're going to take them up for doing their consulting bit afterwards or their training bit afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think, oh God, this is so droll. So why are they getting it so wrong?
Okay, that's a very, very good question, Cindy, and I hope everybody's listening. And Ricky, you don't need a card. No, that's better. But you can have topics. Okay, Ricky's asked a very good question there. Really good
Read
question.
The question out.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Before I come back to your one, okay. I was asked. I've mentioned this one before.
Read out Ricky's question and then answer it.
Yeah, I'll answer Ricky's question. Okay.
Right, I'll read it out. If Ricky asks, if you use a card with different topics written down versus a script, is that a speaker?
No.
Right.
Okay.
Expand.
Okay, I'll now expand on that. Okay. I had somebody who owns this beautiful antique company. You notice I'm doing storytelling, because speaking is storytelling, actually, a lot. And it's got to be based on your experience with whatever the topic is. Doesn't matter. As you know, I can do it on any topic. But this chap owned a very, very old company, and he said, can you help me to learn the 500 words per slide for my 55 slides for a speech?
Mm-hmm.
I said, no. I can show you how to get rid of the words, though. And I said, okay, what's the first slide? Well, it's 500 words about how I inherited this company, bought this company. I said, do you know the story? Yes. I said, okay, what you do is write down on a piece of paper why I bought the company. That's all you need. Yeah, I do know the story. Okay, that's all you need. You don't need the other 500 words. Really? No, that's all you need. And I do a story when I'm speaking training. I do a story all about two frogs getting to the top of the Eiffel Tower. I won't do it now. Maybe if everybody's lucky, I'll do it one day, right? And
I'll hold you to that later.
Yeah, I will do it. Believe me, I'll do it, because it's very visual, it's very auditory, and it's very fun, and it's corny as hell, but it's great fun. Okay.
Okay.
What do I put on my day-long speech? Frog story.
That's all you need.
Frog story. So I know, frog story. And I told you my ex-wife was doing this full-day thing with children, and she wanted to get them to look at their watches. Okay, what watch are you wearing? And I said, don't write a script, just put watch. And she looked around the room, and there were 160 children in the room, 16-year-olds, don't call them children, teens. And she saw that hardly any of them had watches on.
Mm-hmm.
So she dumped the story and didn't do it. Now, if she'd had a script, if she'd had lots of notes about that, she'd have gone, oh my God, what can I do now? I've got my script. No, you can't have a script. And topics, yeah, very, very short, Ricky. It's got to be the odd word. And I will do a full day on one A4 sheet, literally. That's all. That's all I need. One A4 sheet.
But then that's coming back down to, I mean, I think it's Dr. Simon Raybould who said in an earlier...
I love Simon. He's a good friend. No, I like Simon very much. He thinks I'm brilliant, which I like.
He's done lots of research and presentations, and he's saying the true professional or expert is a person who knows up to, was it 37 times content than the audience that they're actually teaching. So, and if you have 20%, then that's sort of like, that starts you on that kind of road to being an expert.
Yeah, and there's the other thing, you use a notepad to, words relative to different topics, as Ricky's saying. Yeah, the odd word, literally the odd word.
Yeah, notepad in the show sometimes and write words with relative different. Well, it's coming back down to doing the mind maps, really, because I've known speakers who are trying to be the professional, as in giving the story as opposed to, and giving a story of the journey, so the audience can actually bring their own conclusions to it, as opposed to a speaker trainer who's saying, these are the 3 tips and these are the 3 reasons why you need those 3 tips, kind of thing. And what I actually find with those that are trying to be the professional, they use the mind maps and just the keywords to kind of jolt them, as well as reading the audience and saying, well, that topic's going down well. I'll just expand a little bit more on that particular journey.
Yeah.
But they do know their stuff inside out.
Yeah.
And they actually memorize their stuff for, let's say, 2-hour keynote, and then they just chop it down into the various kind of stages, depending on who they're talking to and how long for.
Yeah. Okay. When is a speaker not a speaker? I'll mention one which I've mentioned before, so I'll do it very, very quickly. It was a massive multinational company that booked me to do a 45 to an hour speech, basically. And so they booked me. I got a great deal with them. I've talked about working the money out another time, so I'm not going to do it today. But they booked me to do a 45 minutes to an hour speech. I then researched the company and looked at the founders of the company. I had a PowerPoint, which was about 10 slides maximum. And I opened up with showing the founders of the company, when it was founded, how it was founded, and how wonderful I think the company is, because I do think that company is wonderful. It's a fantastic company, right? I then went into my voice training, right, for this company, which is to do with diesel engines, right? Got nothing to do with voice. But I did have the 220 top salespeople for the whole world for this company at their annual convention. And so I thought, okay, what can I do to relate speaking to selling massive, wonderful diesel engines? And they loved it. And it was because I researched who the audience was. How can I fit my stuff in with them? I've done it with dental industry. I've done it with financial industry. I've done it with legal industry. So what you're saying is when is a speaker not a speaker? A speaker is not a speaker if they're just throwing stuff at people.
Right. Well, here's the question earlier. So keywords on a notepad make you a speaker or a presenter?
Oh, I don't have anything, actually. I just have it in my head. So it's a bit hard to say that.
Well,
okay.
I know from my viewpoint and how I've worked with speakers over the past.
Yeah.
If you have a person who's presenting somebody else's material that they've never had any information before.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
Then that to me is a presenter. Somebody who has no knowledge of what the hell they're talking about and they're just going by what they've been given. It's either a script or it's PowerPoint slides and they're trying to make it up on the spot. A professional speaker is a person who can do presenting, but they actually have the knowledge of stagecraft. They know how to play the topic and make the topic their own. It's the difference between a karaoke singer regurgitating a song and somebody doing a cover.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I think that's brilliant, Cindy. Because you've made me think of something. There was a Professional Speaking Association event years ago, right? And it was actually a fellow of the PSA was speaking. Now, I love the PSA, as you know. I'm not a member anymore, but I think it's lovely. And lots of really good friends of mine are in the PSA. And I was a fellow. And I went to this event, and this person was talking about the DISC system, the DISC system.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I know the DISC. I was trained in that.
Okay. So towards the end of their presentation, somebody asked some questions. And the speaker opened a book to find the answer.
Great.
And said, it shows here that. And they pulled out some coloured slides and pages based on the DISC system. I thought, if you don't know it, don't do it. Now, I know...
Unless, sorry, just to interrupt. The only time you can do that, and I will be honest here, is when it is your own stuff, but you are needing to recheck your figures, or you are a little bit forgetful, that's okay to check back.
Detail, numbers, figures, prices. Yeah.
So, not everyone can remember everything.
No, that's okay.
And if it's something that you're not practicing every single day and it's something that you do from time to time, it's okay to actually have memory aids.
Yeah, what they call it in the legal profession is a memset.
Memset.
MEMSET. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a thing that barristers use.
Right.
A friend of mine is a very, very high barrister now. He wasn't when I first knew him. But he said, what you do, when you're on a phone conversation with a client, and I do this, you write short notes about what they need or what they don't need. It's called a MEM set. Yeah, memset. And so you write down the notes of the bullet points. And I do this with a new client. Or let's say they're going to book me as a speaker. And I say, who's the audience? Where's the audience? When will I be doing it? And I write very, very short bullet points. And then I keep asking them questions about those bullet points. And I go off and think, okay, right. I've done this for the dental industry. As I said, dental industry is great. And I had to think, okay, how can I make voice training relevant to dentists? And I did 3 times. Great. I became suddenly CPD for the dental industry. I didn't mind. I know it sounds silly.
Is it career professional? Is it continued professional development, isn't it?
Yeah, continuing professional development.
Yeah.
So they have to go. The dentists have to go to those. And so I went to 2 of them for the British Dental Association and 1 for the British Orthodontic Association.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I know. It's a mouthful of teeth, mate. Right. And the audiences were terrible. I have to say, they were really, really hard to work with. But the thing is, as a professional speaker, you don't care. Did they pay me for follow-ups? No, they didn't. And I didn't care because I was paid to be there anyway. Right. You sometimes get, like, if I get a professional development group, like, say, the Yes Group in London or Christopher Howard's audience or Tony Robbins' audience, oh, my God, I can let rip.
Absolutely. But I'm going to slightly pull you up because I will say you are professional enough that you do care about the audience, that they're getting the information.
Yeah.
And you do your research and you do actually check to make sure you are relevant for the audience before you actually get there.
Yeah, that's true.
What you don't get hung up on is reading the audience, the negative guys in the audience at that particular moment. Because that's one thing I've seen about speakers is that if they see somebody falling asleep in the audience, they then start honing and start focusing on that one person to try and get them back in the room.
Don't say that one. Be in the room.
Be in the room.
Be in the room. Yeah.
But because they're so focused on those guys, they actually lose the other guys.
But where they make a mistake, the unprofessional professional speakers, where they make
unprofessional professional,
is that person may have their eyes closed, their arms crossed, and their legs crossed because they're concentrating. It's not because they're not listening. They might be concentrating. And if they're asleep, who cares? They're asleep. They don't matter anymore. They've gone. You don't need to worry about them at all. And it is a thing that people get wrong, that you focus too much on, and I did this once in Iran. I had a woman in the audience of 800 who was asking questions and being very negative. And all the other speakers said afterwards, Fergus, you should have closed her down. I said, no, I was playing with her, actually. I was using her to help me. Was I right? Was I wrong? No. I'll tell you how to stop the ums, mate. Right, Ricky? I'll tell you how to stop the ums. I did this when I was training in schools. And there was a boy who was brilliant, but he kept saying And so I got all the other kids in the room to clap their hands every time he said
Okay, so nothing like actually making him so conscious about it. So you shocked him out of it then.
Yeah, so it's a bit, I'm going to do it now. It'll be loud, right? Ready? One of those.
Yeah.
Every time he did an the 60 other students in the room clapped. Believe me, after 10 minutes, he was not umming so much. And that's the only way to do it. Have someone with you, doesn't matter who it is, who claps once per Yeah, Ricky, once per A click per And
and you can do that with any other bad habit as well.
Like, okay, let's talk about fillers. Right. Professional speakers don't use fillers.
One clap per yes.
Yes, definitely. Or
it's called filibustering is the technical term for how to use words to fill your brain in that space whilst your brain is kind of processing what the hell am I going to say next that isn't the word
Yeah, filibustering was named after a man called something like Filibuster in America who had to speak at the Senate for a long time and he just waffled for hours. And so that's why it's called filibustering. But and I think
MPs, politicians are usually schooled in the art of filibustering.
Yeah.
And it's things like they've just been asked a question, which is particularly difficult and against their own policy. And if they answer, they're going to drop themselves in it. And they're trained, they have to then think of how to ask the question without answering the question. So the best thing they do is start with things like, that's a very good question you've asked me.
So what is your answer to it? That's lovely. That gives you 5 seconds.
And that's the equivalent of your brain going,
Oh my God. I don't know the answer to this. I was about to swear, but it's, oh my God, I don't know the answer to this. Oh, somebody help me. But what you do is you just feed it back to the person. Okay, what do you think the answer is? And let them say it. And then you say to all the other people in the room, okay, so what do you think? Now you've got 5 minutes of other people giving wonderful input, which could be really good, which you can agree with or disagree with. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And
Absolutely.
Okay, you know, I know, look and listen actually are very good, as long as you don't use them too much.
Right.
I
notice there's colloquialisms wherever you go, that there's always something that there's a trait coming through of regular keywords.
Yeah.
And I know in Middle England you've got the right.
Yeah.
And you know. I don't know.
Australians have and nanny, yes, so is a really good one. It's terrible, but you're right, nanny. Yeah. So what you have to do is what you do is you write it up. Okay. You write it 3 ways. Okay. You write what you want to do. You don't have to do in huge detail, but you write it as something to be read silently. Then you rewrite it as something to be read aloud, which is different. And then you write it as bullet points. And what you do, you look at the first one and you'll see all your so's and your no's, and the reason is, and I know, and you go through it and you go, oh my goodness me, I'm so repeating myself over and over again. Take them out. Just remove them all. And interestingly, my barrister friend who was talking about how he learned, his degree was in Anglo-Saxon, believe it or not. He can speak Anglo-Saxon. Anyway, he said his professor made him cut his stuff down and cut it down and cut it down. So if you can do it in... Yeah, no, don't do I. No, don't finish sentences with repeats, Ricky. Don't stick an I on the end, all right? Okay, I? No, you...
Hang on. What? Let's bring it in. Ricky's... Is it bad to finish lines with I? It's very common for New Zealanders. Well, yes. You see, here in England, terrible. We have the, to be honest.
You know.
And the other famous one is at the end of the day.
Oh, you mean tonight?
With.
Yeah, you mean tonight, basically.
Tonight.
At the end of the day. No, you mean tonight, do you? I hate those. You just slash it down. You really slash it down. And I actually do say and occasionally, but you've never heard me say it, have you, Cindy? Because if I use an or an let's say Ricky asked me a really good question now that I can't think, I'll go, yes, I can see why you're asking me that. So it's a professional or right? Not a repetition or That's the difference.
But I think actually with Nanny saying that she ends her sentence with so, with Ricky saying that he ends his sentence with I. Half of the problem is actually noticing whether you do that or not.
Yeah.
And a good speaker will actually pick up on those and start training themselves out of it.
Actually, you saying that as well, right? You're saying that, Cindy. As you know, as you know, yeah, that's not a repetition. That's as you know. I was trained as a professional actor, right? One of the things I had to, like for decades, everybody who's in here, you should know I was really highly trained as an actor a long time ago. So I must be telling the truth, okay? That's PowerPoint. Anyway, that's a PowerPoint for me, not a PowerPoint. Anyway, what I learned was to get rid of mannerisms, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I'm doing it now. I hope everybody's looking at it. Let's say I put my head over to the left side at the end of every sentence, okay? And
yes.
Right, it gets really irritating. So you have to lose vocal and physical mannerisms. Now, actually, Cindy, you don't have any. That's why you're so good on camera. You literally don't have mannerisms. And I was trained out of having any mannerisms, and they're verbal. Stella Adler is good. Yeah, she's good. Fab. Yeah, she's good.
Hang on. What's that? So, Fab is The Art of Acting by Stella Adler, a good book.
Yes, it is. Any book on how to act better is good, right? Basically. And any book by Dame Cicely Berry, just look up Cicely Berry, is good for voice, because she trained me in 1962, and she's 90 now, nearly, and she's still working with the Royal Shakespeare Company, and she's wonderful, and I still know her, and you can learn a lot from her books. And also, Patsy Roddenberg, okay? Her books are really good. Patsy Roddenberg's books are good. And my CDs are really good, of course. I don't have any books. I do actually, but I have CDs on the voice. How to be a good speaker, Bardic Abdel. Okay, first, know your topic. Second,
hang on, you've moved off topic. Where have you gone in your conversation?
Well, I saw Bardic Abdel said, I'm new here, so I want your advice on how to be a good speaker. Which is a very good question for this blab, actually.
Yes, because there are speakers, there's presenters, and then there's different types of speakers as well.
Yeah.
And it's all to do with what and why are you wanting to be a speaker.
Yeah.
Once you work that out, then you start working on how you're going to be good at being speaking. Because if you get a chance to have the replay of this, you'll then see that what Fergus is just talking about is stagecraft. And when you're talking about stagecraft, speakers do it different from actors. And those that are presenting their topic because they are a keynote, they're storytelling, eventually find themselves going into acting because it's a good way to emotionally engage with your audience as a person, as your whole being, as your whole presence, as well as the words that you're talking. Whereas if you're a speaker trainer or a speaker presenter, then a speaker trainer, you actually do need the art of speaking from a speaking perspective, because you're giving off information, content, trying to engage and pull people in and talking about tips, tricks. So you're having to have a total absolute dynamics with the room. But when you're talking about presenting, then you don't need quite so much the stagecraft, but you do need to know how to jump in and fill somebody else's shoes without making yourself look an idiot.
Yeah, very good. I know Bob Proctor. I know him well, Fab. I've met him lots of times. I trained his head of sales in England, so I know Bob Proctor well. And Bob Proctor does a lot of very boring presentation. No, he's really boring at times. He's seriously boring, because I went to lots of his seminars. But then he'll suddenly get out a yo-yo, and he does this incredible presentation with a yo-yo, because he's a complete expert with the yo-yo. He transfixes the audience, and he does it in a very calm, old man, I'm old Bob Proctor, and so I did this many years ago. And you watch and think, oh my God, he's got me totally. Never mind his Wallace Wattles book that he reads out loud. When he's doing the yo-yo, he's fantastic. He's utterly wonderful with the yo-yo. So what do I remember most? It's how he does something special on the stage. That's what makes him a professional, and makes him very, very rich as well. He can do some special things when he's up there with the audience. And also, Steve Jobs was highly trained pro. Prof is saying, go. Yeah.
Dr. Luck, he said that to check out Steve Ballmer and Steve Jobs. So
Steve Ballmer is, hello everybody, let's go. He's like over the top massively. Whereas Steve Jobs, because he's not a natural speaker. Well, he wasn't a natural speaker, Steve Jobs. And he spent ages working on every single word of every single script for weeks before every presentation. Now, Steve Jobs, I wouldn't call a speaker at all. I'd call him presenter of stuff he's already written, along with 20 other people. Now, as you know, my house is full of Apple equipment. Absolutely. I've got loads of it. So I'm not downing Steve Jobs. But as a presenter, he was a presenter. He wasn't a speaker. So,
okay, I see where you're coming from on that, because there's a lot of people would say no, that he was a speaker.
No, he wasn't.
Because he's actually doing storytelling of what he was about. But if you actually do break down, he's no more than presenting back the latest company products and what it was about
in massive detail. Well, Ricky, he was good at speaking, answering questions off the cuff because he prepared them. Oh, Brian Tracy's brilliant. Brian Tracy Fabry. Brian is wonderful. He's been at it forever. I've got a lot of his CDs. He is a trainer, not a speaker. He's a trainer, Brian Tracy. He's a serious trainer.
Yes,
really.
And he's very good at it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've listened to a lot of his stuff, and he tells a story on one of his discs about when he bought a car, and he got it for about a quarter of the price it should have been, and the man in the shop said, "You don't understand about cars." He'd just given him a 70% discount. It's a fantastic story that he tells, and so he tells stories, Brian Tracy, based on life that's happened. And you know me well enough, Cindy. I tell stories all the time. Client stories, life stories. It's all about
stories within stories.
And stories within stories, whereby a really good speaker tells stories. Actually, maybe that's it. When's a speaker not a speaker? They don't have stories.
No, well, a keynote for me is a person who can tell a story. Somebody who can get on stage, capture an audience's attention, tell their own story of how they did something without having to point it out with step by step, this, that, and the other, but give enough signposts in there that me as a member of the audience can actually draw my own conclusions and relate it to what I'm doing in my job role or what I'm trying to achieve and the reason why I'm there in the first place as an audience. Okay,
let me give you an example which is completely wrong. That's why I want to give it. Okay, ready? Everybody? I hope so. Right. My father, I'm not going to go into details, which I could, but a friend of my father's was a really, really top international poet, right, who died. And my father, and he was Irish, okay, so my father and his friends went to the wake. Now, the Irish have a wake with an open coffin. And my father and his friends decided, because this poet was so special, let's make a death mask of him with clay.
Okay,
so they were really scared of doing it. So they went and got some clay, and they went into the room, and they drank, and they drank, and they drank. And they ended up that this dead poet was lying in his coffin, covered in clay, with no mask at all, with just chunks of clay pulled off his face. So they screwed the lid on the coffin, went and washed their hands, and pretend they'd done nothing. Okay, now that's a true story. And it's a very funny story about a bunch of Irish drunks at a friend's wake who are trying to do something. How can that story be used? You can use it any way you like. It's a true story.
It's just how to bring it in.
Yeah, it's like, how do you pull that in? And so if I was doing a speech and I wanted to mention that story, I'd put death mask. That's all I'd put, death mask.
Well, that's going back to you saying that you, on a bit of paper, you would put the keyword death mask.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And the other one would be frog, right? And so what I'd do, I would think of what I want to share with the audience and in what order, which is important. I've spoken before, I think I've said it here. If you imagine like an Archimedean screw that's pouring water, or one of those things where it's lots of buckets going round that are attached to a wheel, and the water goes from the low level to the high level in the buckets, okay? So each bucket gets filled with water at the bottom and goes up and pours it into another thing at the top, okay? That's what you've got to do with a speech. No, don't worry about changing the speech part, really.
Hang on. If you finish that, because we've got Ricky's question just slightly below, which is slightly off topic, and then Barney has actually asked a brilliant question on the side. So we'll come. I'll read that out to you in a minute, so you don't have to worry about your glasses. Get back on.
Okay.
I know you're having a crafty, but don't worry about it. Okay, so Ricky's terrible. Question.
It's a cigarette. It's not a crafty anything else, everybody. It's only a crafty cigarette. That sounds dirty otherwise, Cindy. Okay.
Anyway,
I'll get thrown
Ricky's
off
question is, does smiling and body posture also show the difference between a speaker and presenting?
Yes, definitely. Although you do get some presenters who are okay at their posture and their walking around, but a really good speaker can do it without thinking. Literally, they just don't have to think at all. And you think, what's left, what's right, what's up, what's down. And here's an example for everyone here, and also for you, Bardic. When you're doing a speech, think of a children's story you know, and perform it silently in front of a mirror, okay? With no words at all. Do you understand it when you do it with no words? I told this one to Alan Pease. He said, "Oh my God, Fergus, that's bloody wonderful. That's a great idea." And he's not a trainer, he's a speaker, but he thought that was a brilliant idea. And it is a good idea because it makes you use your body. It makes you use your hands. It makes you use your face because you're not allowed to do it out loud at all. And that means all your body movements and your hand movements fit with what you're saying. They have to. And then you do it again with sound. But first, you do it aloud, and then you do it with no sound, and watch yourself in the mirror, or have a good friend watch you do it. And the way to practice that is to take a children's story that you know and somebody else knows and perform it in front of a mirror. And you think, how can I, and like you, Cindy, of course, are Goldilocks, aren't you?
No,
so I can do the
patchwork elephant, actually.
You're what?
Alma, the patchwork elephant.
No, you're not. You're Blondie.
What?
No, I'm glad I haven't, actually. Anyway, I'm really glad I haven't heard of Elmer, the patchwork elephant. My God. Anyway, so if I was telling a story about Goldilocks going into the woods, and I've done this with clients for many years, I get them to act it out without speaking. And then they can do it and speak as well. And it just lives because they've had to do it with their body and their hands and their face without any sound. And the body is very important when you're doing a speech. And I was watching David Cameron doing a speech, and he's doing this thumb thing. Oh, right.
The power thumb.
The power thumb.
That, I think, because Tony Blair was trying to do that, and then he brought it back, so it was just on the top instead.
Yeah, and Cameron learned it from Tony Blair. I was watching him doing it yesterday. I thought, oh, that's so corny. I don't do that stuff. It's because you can't point at an audience. You can't point at a person. It's rude. It's very rude.
Very rude. Very rude.
Very rude.
And you're not allowed to do that anymore. Like to make the point anymore. You have to do the thumb instead.
Punch your hand.
Yes.
That was Gordon. Was it Gordon Brown was always doing his.
Yes, but you see, they're aggressive moves. There are moves that without the sound, they can come across as aggressive. Yeah. I was helping a speaker. They had a habit of doing that all the time. And then sort of like after a while, they'd relax the hand.
Yeah.
And I'd say, right, okay, now fast forward.
Yeah, so it got more and more wimpy from chopping someone's head off to a sort of gay presentation of my wrist is weak.
No, even worse. It actually looked like, because they dropped their hands as well from up here to being lower and being a bloke.
No, don't.
It was like, no, honestly. Yeah. So, it's always good just to check out what your body language is actually doing, or what you're doing with your... So, Ricky, when you're talking about the ums, you will also have particular, body kind of telltales and habits that you may not even know. So it's always good to record and watch yourself back on silent. Yeah. You don't need to hear what you're talking about.
Yes, definitely.
If you know what you're giving a presentation on, then your body language should actually reflect that.
And it's called leakage in psychology. And I think it's probably called that in body language as well. It's called leakage. As in what Alan said to me, and he said it in his speeches, Alan Pease, about body language. Don't take it from one thing people are doing, but if they do 3 or 4, it's called a cluster. Like, okay, let's say someone's sitting there with their arms crossed. It might mean they're tense, or it might mean they just like to cross their arms.
Absolutely, it's everything else that's going with it.
Yeah.
But
you've got to go for a set.
Back. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to watch the head, the arms, the legs, the breathing, the ears, and how they move. And so it's got to be a set.
Absolutely.
If you touch your beard, Ricky, that's great. No, it's fine. No, actually a very good filler, because it is a filler and it's kinesthetic. So
and people... it also relinks to the thought. Was it the thinker?
Yeah, definitely. Rodin.
So if you're doing that, even if you're doing your beard, it's already synonymous with I'm thinking about what you've just said, or I'm thinking about what I'm just about to say.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very good way when you've got a beard. It's sort of like, if you've got a distraction or anything, but just don't leave your hand over like that because people can't see the lips.
My brother actually does it without a beard. I've seen my brother do it because he's a presenter, because he's a program and project management consultant, right? And he'll go, yes, and he'll use his finger and thumb. I see what you mean. I hate it. But if you've got a beard, you can do it. Without a beard, you can't. It looks ridiculous. But with a beard, you can play with it.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's another thing about, as a speaker, right? Let's say you've suddenly got a really itchy nose, okay? You've got a terrible itch in the left side of your nose. What you do, while you're talking, you just go scratch, 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 and put your hand away. Yeah. You do it deliberately. You don't do it sneaky at all. You make it deliberate. You make it strong. Because then people think, oh, and they don't notice it. But it's got to be deliberate, not furtive. Never do anything furtive on stage. It'll frighten the audience.
Okay. Well, let's go back to Bardic's question, because he said, because he's a beginner and he's learning English, he has some problems speaking with others and he can't speak fluently. So have you any techniques to improve the skills? I know what I would say, but what would you say?
I would say speak slower. Because what Bardic doesn't realize is that he's thinking at 2,500 words a minute in whatever language, and the very, very fastest auctioneers can only, the American auctioneers can only go to 250. That means you've got loads of time to think. So speak slower and think more carefully about your words and just relax into it. Ricky, if you're being unnatural, people will notice.
Yeah, just make sure it's not scratching your bum, though. I mean, that really is a no.
No, you can't do that, and you can't stick your finger up your nose. Really, you can scratch carefully, but do not stick your finger in your ear or up your nose. And if you need
or hand in pocket to scratch either.
No hands in pockets. If there's an itch, forget it. Do not put your hand in. I had school teachers like that, right? And we all just laughed about them, and we never listened to them. Yeah. We just waited for them to put their hand in and scratch.
Absolutely.
Didn't learn anything from them.
It becomes a sort of bingo, doesn't it? Known with that person, their traits and their habits, but it's the awful ones that actually stand out more than the good ones.
Yeah, and that's the thing about when's a speaker, not a speaker. If you've got bad mannerisms, like I was talking about mannerisms earlier, like head moving and ums and ers, definitely fillers, and hand movements. I mean, it's funny, Trevor McDonald.
Yeah. I was going to say, you actually reminded me, there was a speaker I was working with many years ago, and he had a really bad habit. The end of his sentence, and when he was trying to make a pause, he would purse his lips and then put his chin down. So it'd be something like, and I'm thinking, why on earth are you doing that? And I actually found myself getting more and more distracted by that kind of facial tick or that mannerism, that I actually stopped listening to what he was saying and started trying to time when he was going to do it. Yeah. Because I found it kind of more funny. So for me, that is a person who is actually losing the plot of being a speaker, because I then noticed around the room. Now, I've got a bit of a weird brain that picks up on things that nobody else picks up on. Because to me, they are like a black dot in the white carpet. I just see them. And I'm blonde enough to actually tell everybody, oh, look at the blonde, that black spot in the white carpet, where everyone else conveniently says, oh, it's not there. We can kid ourselves. Okay. And because of that, I had noticed that if you try and kid yourself over a bit of a habit that is a distraction for your audience, you can then start seeing your audience getting distracted. And you have no idea why, because you think it's your content is bad. And it's not the content. It is actually because of this silent stuff.
Okay. Now, Fabry is asking a very good question about how to use the stage as a speaker.
Okay.
Does he pace too much? It's down the side. He said it's like he... and Ricky's saying it's like he's pacing. Okay. Now, if you have to go to the left side of the stage, go to the left side of the stage. If you have to go to the middle, go to the middle. If you have to go to the right, go to the right. Stop. Stay there. Do some stuff. Don't keep walking backwards and forwards. And there are some speakers. One of them was a great friend of mine. Well, no, he wasn't a great friend of mine, but I liked him. He was a nice bloke. And he used to walk left and right across the stage all the time, like a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
His content was stunning. And I'll tell you who it was, Cindy, later. He's the one who died a few years ago, a Scottish man. Okay?
Ah, right. I know.
Okay, you know who I mean.
Yeah.
And he could blow the audience away with his content and with his performance. But he said when he was doing a presentation for the PSA that when he was walking left and right, his two legs were keeping his brain energized, which is right, the left side and the right side of the brain energized, and he did it energetically. I don't do that all the time. I don't march all the time. He did, and it fitted his presentation style, so it was perfect. Mine, I go to somewhere, left, right, or center. I go there, and I stay there for a while. I don't just keep wandering. There's got to be a reason to move.
Yes, because there are some people, some speakers, and it also comes back down to your presentation and what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I know with the PSA, there was another speaker who was a walker. But what she was doing is, as she was taking the steps, she was talking and she was taking people on a journey, got to the other side of the stage, stayed there, finished off the story, gave the punchline, gave what it was, the point that she was trying to make. Then she'd start on the next story, which for her was a journey back to the other side.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
What she was doing also, she was looking down at the floor as she walked, showing that she was thinking about the story and where she was going. And then when she made a point, she'd then look up and talk to the audience and engage with them one-to-one. So for me, that was what I would call very powerful stage management.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
Unfortunately, when you then get a bunch of newbie speakers, they were turning around saying, no, you have to do this, because Toastmasters have taught them that they must stand and use and act a certain way. And you do get guys who will actually count out how many times you've said in your speech. Did you know you've done 67 times?
I know.
So I had to then go back and say, well, actually, the way that you use your walking and the movement around the stage was in line with the presentation she was giving.
Yeah.
So if you have been told that you are walking too much, I would say, first of all, find out who it is you are talking, who's telling you that. Yeah. If it's an AV chap, it's because they actually don't like trying to get the camera on you because they're doing this all the time. And it can look kind of bad from the background if it's all going blurry and everything else. And also it doesn't look very good on the replay with the cameraman trying to track you. Yeah. If, however, it is a topic that has no business with being walked around because there is nothing for you to play with, to take them on a journey, to stop, pause about it, then yes, you might have to rethink how you do it. And with one speaker who I worked with, who was predominantly, he was called a shuffler. He used to shuffle back. So even though he'd stop on the spot, he would then shuffle back. I solved that by sticking him literally on a soapbox and said, right, shuffle off that, you bugger. A couple of falls later, and
I had someone I was training who kept going up and down. I'm doing it now for those who can see. When he was talking, he got very. I've actually had two people doing that, and they go up and down as they speak. Right. So what I did, I put two big bits of wood under the front of their shoes, so they couldn't go up and down while they were speaking. They just couldn't do it.
Okay.
So they had to focus on their talking and their content, because what happens if people are putting stuff into their ums and ers or to their body language, they're actually disconnecting from their message and the power that they'll have with the audience. And if you remove a lot of it, like as I said, as an actor, I was taught I can't have mannerisms. I can't move my head in the same way all the time because I might be playing a different character next week. And I can't do the same head twitches that I did last week. Now, there was an actor, not an actor, sorry, a TV presenter, Trevor McDonald, newsreader, right? Loved by the whole country, absolutely loved. But if you watch him in high speed, he's twitching his head over all the time to the left, all the time his head's going to the left as he's talking, all the time. It really irritated me. However, as an after-dinner speaker, he was very, very successful, and I'm sure he still is, and everybody loved Trevor McDonald. So he could get away with it. It was a horrible mannerism. It was really ghastly. I couldn't stand it. But stage anchor, okay, Ricky's asking stage anchors are.
Oh, hang on.
And Frank was asking about it. Stage anchors.
Stage anchors.
Okay. Yeah, that's important. Stage anchors is important. Okay.
Because we've also got another question also from Nanny about diction exercise. So we'll come to that because that's also ties up with the earlier question from Bardic as well. But anyway.
Okay.
So, stage anchors.
Stage anchors. Stage anchors. Okay. If you're speaking in the English language or any European language, the left side of the stage, as seen by the audience, not by you. If you're on stage, you reverse it. Okay. Okay. The left side of the stage for the audience is where things start. The right side is where things finish. Okay. Mm-hmm. The middle is controlling.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got a big PowerPoint up, a big slide or a big screen up, and Steve Jobs was brilliant at this, you go to the back left. Okay. Yeah. Because then the presentation is to your right. I'm talking audience left, not your left.
Yeah.
Okay. Audience so it's your right. Okay. You have to stage left.
You have to think about it. As Frank says, it's the timelines. You've got to think timelines.
Yeah. The timeline goes from the left to the right of an audience. We read the English language from the left to the right. So if something's going from the past to the future, it has to go from the audience's left to the audience's right. And if you want to present something, you go to the left and have it presented to your right. That's how you anchor into the audience. So front center of stage, very front center of stage, is complete command and control. Okay.
So what you're talking about, if your presentation is saying, let's go back a couple of years to when I was
yes,
that is when you go across the stage
to the left.
And some people I've seen actually do that quite fast pace.
Yeah.
So that then as they're then telling their journey to bring you up to present date, they then walk very slowly back the other way.
Yes. Yeah, that works. Yeah. That works very well. Yeah. There's another way you can use that, actually. Yeah, beginning, middle, end of story, Frank. Yeah. Conclusion is to the right-hand side of the audience. That's right, Frank. You're absolutely right. Now, there's another thing you can do as a professional speaker. This is one of the biggest secrets, actually. You can talk about your opponents, your competition. You walk across to the left and talk about your competition, and then you walk to the right and talk about your own company. There's a lot more to it, which I'm not going to do tonight.
Oh, we do that another day.
There's an awful lot. We'll do that another day. Yeah, that's really powerful stuff. I'm not going to go into it now. It's too much for people today.
Anchoring.
No, I'll do it another time.
Well, should we do that next week? Talking about anchoring.
Yeah. Anchoring. Yeah, anchoring.
Okay.
State. Anchoring states for the audience. Yeah. Anchoring state. Yeah.
Right. I will set that.
State induction. State induction and anchoring. Yeah, it's really powerful stuff, and it really works well.
Okay.
And I'll do that next week. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
God, I learn lots of this stuff, don't I? Okay.
Absolutely. So going back there, we've got, because Ricky's actually asked another question after Frank's comment, which is beginning, middle, end of the story. Conclusion is to the right for an audience.
Correct.
This is when you drive home. Your conclusion is by going to the right of the audience. Yeah.
Correct. So, absolutely right. Yeah.
Now, Ricky's question, if I can bring it up. Here you go. Have you got your glasses on, Fergus?
Yes, I have.
Right. Okay. Brian Tracy recommended. Right. Yeah. Now, you don't need to write right. So now that's where you're actually using your filling words, actually in your writing words. Because he's already read the book called The Power of Charm, is there any other titles that may be of value?
I listened to, I didn't read the book, but I listened to some CDs by Brian Tracy on selling. And I can't remember what it was called. It was a set of CDs on how to sell, which is how I remember the name of it. It was really, really good. How he negotiated to buy a car for half the price. It was very funny, very easy. And you can listen to it in your car, which is good. Lucky you can listen to my CDs in your car if you buy them.
Or download them from your podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Hypnotic Salesman. Is that Hypnotic Salesman?
That probably is it, actually, Ricky. Yeah.
You buy a new car.
Tons of tokens for audio. Yeah, well, Yeah, I bought, as you know, a bicycle for £650. I got it for 200. So that's not bad.
He's just used his voice, you see, and all the techniques of the...
Oh, I have to say to everybody listening, and I've told Cindy already, but about 2 years ago, a woman wanted to come to me for training, and she spoke to me on the phone. And then we met, and I said a few things to her, and within a little while, she was my girlfriend. And she said, the first time I spoke to you, I was driving along the motorway, and I had to pull into a lay-by, otherwise I would have crashed. I said, why? She said, because of your voice. Oh, okay, I don't mind that.
It's relaxing enough to put people off to sleep.
Well, I went on, I think it was Radio Scotland, because I do, as you know, on and off, I go on the radio a lot. And the woman presenter asked me a question, eat Fergus, neat. And I answered, and she said, I don't know anything you said, Fergus, but it just sounded so beautiful. Which I don't mind.
Fantastic.
I'm lucky, I have to say to everybody here, everybody who's listening, as a speaker, as a professional speaker, I know lots of professional speakers, so do you, Cindy. When I get up, I'm talking about how to speak better. And that's my job. Mm-hmm. And so I can stand up and speak better, and people say, oh, he must be good, because listen to him. Whereas somebody who wants to talk about spreadsheets, they can't prove it on the stage when they're speaking.
Not very easily.
They have all slides and things like that. Whereas I just say, I can show you how to speak much more effectively in business and make your company bigger and better. And I use the stage, I use my voice and use storytelling and think, yeah, he must be right.
But then that's why you're a professional speaker and you're not just a presenter, though.
Yes, yeah, there's a huge difference. Yeah, I can present anything, but I'm not a presenter. I'm a speaker. Mm-hmm. And the difference is a jobbing speaker, if you like, should be able to speak on any topic, not just their own. That's the difference. I mean, you and I know some really brilliant speakers. It's got to be about being able to speak and use the, if you like, the nuts and bolts, Well, I was quite surprised because I had a briefing one day where it was a company that needed someone to present their sales pitch. And I actually just went to a whole load of professional speakers and said, does anybody know who could do this? And I was quite surprised the amount that would actually come through and say, yeah, if it's script, I can learn that and promote it and do it. So I think with not everyone can be a speaker, but there's quite a lot of people can be a presenter. No. Yes, that's true, actually. Oh, that's good. I hadn't thought of that, Cindy. Yeah, anybody can be a presenter. That's easy. To be a speaker is... Frank is a good speaker. I know Frank's a good speaker. I've spoken to him before.
We're just learning, like everybody, I guess.
Basically.
Well, we're posing the question is, when is a speaker not a speaker?
Well, I like what you just said about anybody can be a presenter, because speaking, like any discipline, is just that. It's a discipline which you need to practice. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, and I see this all the time, you know, not just in Blab. In Fergus, we spoke last week, and Cindy on... You know, I run the New York Power team in New York City, and I see a lot of speakers. We have speakers every month, and a lot of people contact me and they want to be a speaker. And just because somebody wants to do something doesn't mean that they're actually doing the work to become good at what they want to do or practicing. And I make mistakes all the time. I'm learning all the time. I love what you're saying, and you do. You've got a very mellifluous voice and a nice tonality and a nice, what's the word? The flow of your voice up and down is very, very soothing, very pleasant. My own tonality, I get caught sometimes because I'm a kind of a very auditory digital kind of a thinker, so I get stuck in monotones a lot. Okay. I'm an AD. Yeah. Yes. Oh,
you're an AD. Oh my God, ADs are rare. ADs are very rare, Cindy, and they think faster than anyone else.
Yeah.
Really. ADs are brilliant. I'm an auditory, so ADs. My friend I write books with is an AD, and her eyes go backwards and forwards. When she's talking, her eyes go left and right all the time, and she thinks much faster than I do. It doesn't mean she's right, but she doesn't want to be interrupted. Believe me, because it will make Frank crash.
Because you know what? I'm a parent now. I've got a 10-year-old son, and anytime I'm sitting and trying to focus and concentrate on something, he comes running into the room, and I'm lost. And I've got to start over and you know, reboot because I forget where I was. I've got, 10, 15 windows open all the time, and I've got a constant dialogue going on and list of things to do. And then all of a sudden he's like, I need you to blah, blah, blah. I'm like, shit, what was I doing?
I was with my AD friend with another auditory who's an AV man, brilliant AV man. He's done a lot of work for Chris Howard and worked for Tony Robbins and things like that. Okay, so the three of us were having a meal in a place in London, and he and I were looking at the floor and talking, and we're both auditories, right? And she's an AD, and she said, I can't understand what you're saying. What? Well, you're not looking at me. No, we don't need to look. We're looking at the floor because we're listening. All we're doing is just quietly listening. There's all sorts of background noise. We didn't care because we were listening to each other's voices. She freaked. She couldn't focus on it because she was an AD like you. She wanted connection. Well, it sounds like she wanted the eyes pointed at her eyes.
Visual going on too, because as an AD, like sometimes I get so lost in thoughts that I'm, and this from NLP 101, I'm looking down to the left because I'm following my own internal dialogue, or I'm making lists of things to, what's my next question, or how do I, whatever it might be. So I'm not always making good eye contact.
No.
Actually, I think, Frank, it'd be great to have you in one of our blabs to be going on about NLP. I mean, I know a lot about NLP, obviously, but you know a lot more than I do, I'm sure. And it'd be great fun for NLP for speakers, because we've been talking about it, like anchoring bits of the stage.
I love that part of it. I love what you guys are saying and doing. I enjoyed being on with you last week, and I just kind of stumbled onto you here tonight because I was doing some other things. But yeah, I'd love to schedule something with you.
Okay. Well, this time next week,
I was huge into NLP back in the 90s, especially, and I did training with Tony Robbins, and then later with Richard Bandler and John Grinder and Robert Dilts and all those nice people.
Yeah. I know John Grinder, and I've worked for Tony Robbins, and I've trained with Connie and Steve Andreas as well.
Yeah, I came onto the scene when John Laval had already.
Yeah, they were in LA, and I had
Richard. So I got to know John and Kathleen, pretty well, because I went to a bunch of their stuff with Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know of Michael Breen.
Also, Michael Breen.
I did a little bit of stuff with Paul McKenna because he came to New York during our Master Pack training.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was McKenna Breen
not still
at
working
the time,
together?
And Michael. No, not for years. And Michael Breen was much, much more the NLP man. Paul McKenna was the magician and the presenter. He was brilliant at presenting.
He's taken presenting and morphed into being a speaker.
Yeah. Yes, he has. And that's very interesting, if we can sort of round it up with that. But Michael Breen, hardly anybody's heard of, and he's an absolute genius at NLP.
Rex Sykes, who's brilliant at NLP, but a lot of people haven't heard of him unless you're deep into the NLP community.
Yeah, exactly. And what happened, my ex-wife had done a McKenna Breen 1 week long, 5-day, because her company was IBM at the time, which we've all heard of, paid for her to go on this course. No, it wasn't her. She worked there. Anyway, so they paid for her to do a 5-day course, a McKenna Breen course, which she did. And she gave me the discs, and I said, you can tell Breen is the brains and McKenna is the performer. And then she bought me as a present, this is while I was married and before I hated her, before she hated me, she bought me a 2-day weekend with Michael Breen. And there was supposed to be 13 other people in the room. And the 12 coming from Germany.
That's amazing for you.
Yeah. So it was. So I had Michael Breen for 2 days with this other woman called Sarah, I think, and my ex-wife was working as the assistant. And he kept saying, "Look, I'm only interested in Fergus." I had 2 days intensive NLP for VIPs. Oh my God, with Michael Breen, it was serious.
And I will say there's a lot of speakers and presenters that could have done with a lot of that training. I would say not all of it is relevant, but getting the anchoring and all that side.
Well, it is actually. It's
So I went to Bandler's,
and also
he calls it Charisma Enhancement, but it's his platform training course, his speaker training course. and he covers a lot of the things that I was talking about with spatial anchoring and temporal anchoring and stage anchoring, etc. Those are huge parts of the charisma enhancement course he does. I think he does it in February, March in Orlando, Florida.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely talk about that next week then. This time next week for you?
Yep. And I love Frank's camera. I've got to
I was
say,
concerned
Frank's
about the camera. I know I was
God.
having a lot of problems with the sound. And I went out and bought like a nice microphone. So that was the struggle. But now I was thinking about, should I buy a decent camera? Because I've got it's a pretty cheap camera. It's a Gearhead, I don't know, webcam. Yeah.
It's good enough.
Don't know. It's good. It's good. I'm using a Panasonic 930 high definition webcam at the moment. I could use the one built into the computer. I just was wanting to use this one today.
Good to hear.
But yours is sharp.
Yeah, I still have the box here.
This
it's
is
a
not
1080p HD webcam.
It's me getting into tech again.
From Gearhead.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the one upstairs is a webcam HD.
That's right.
It's HD.
It's 1080p.
MI or something. I don't know, but that's a high quality one.
And then here's the microphone I got, which is a Blue Nessie. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it was recommended by Mike Koenigs, who's a big internet marketer over here in the States. Yeah,
Mike is good. Mike is good. He knows his stuff. Yeah, Mike Koenigs. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because he's good. Figure if it was good enough for him, it should work for me.
We use these.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the Rode. I see a lot of
Rode NT USBs.
Oh,
well, the Rode is really good, and I can really do the bass lift, and I don't have to worry. It's got the built-in pop filter, and I put the sponge underneath, which Cindy does as well, and I can really, the
sponge gives you better acoustics or something.
DJ,
show it the sponge. Take it out and
no, it stops popping.
Right.
Show the sponge. Okay.
When the microphone actually arrives, it arrives with a bit of packaging, which is that sponge. And Fergus learnt that without the sponge, with the sponge, you can get a greater round and warmth to the voice.
Oh, nice.
Well, look, I'm doing it without the sponge now. Okay, I'm doing it without the sponge, which is okay, but it's a bit sharp, isn't it? It's just a little bit sharp. But if I now stick the sponge in,
oh, nice.
It's warmer and richer.
You'd be more sensitive to that as an auditory.
And I don't have to worry about popping. Yeah, exactly. I'm a massive auditory, as you know. And so I can actually, okay, I'll do it the wrong way, right? Ready? And this is for everybody, right? I'm going to do it wrong, right? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Right. Okay. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
Absolutely.
That's the worst thing you can do for a microphone, and you didn't get any pops. Now, if I did it straight in, it'd be worse. But if you do across the mic, and you've got the sponge and the filter, and I know I've heard Cindy on her mic and Chris, her partner, on the mic. It's gorgeous. It's the same mic as this one. It's not expensive. It's a brilliant mic. Yours is a good one. And Mike Koenigs, he knows his mics. Yeah. He knows his stuff. Yeah, exactly. This was about $150, I think. Paid for this.
Just the microphone that we had on the headset. Although that's what I had before.
Yeah.
This one had a built-in pop filter, but I bought another pop filter over it just to have that extra layer.
It's working well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's working very well. It has got a sharp sound, Frank, but if you had it a lot closer
so it's
to your
off
mouth,
camera because I kind of like the off-camera look better. I think it looks a little better. I don't like using the headphones even. I'd like to just have no headphones, but I find that it picks up too much sound and I get feedback otherwise, so I got to go with the headphones.
I was going to say.
Well, I'm about to pick up.
Okay. Well, whilst we're talking about
I'll tell you about that later.
And talking and everything else, I think this is a perfect point to bring in Nanny's question, which is, what about diction
Nanny,
exercise?
What was Nanny asking?
Exercises.
Okay, Nanny, perfect. I can do that now. I've done it before. So I can just repeat them now.
And then we'll get Frank.
Okay, Nanny,
Frank's,
are you in there? Can you see me, Nanny? Okay. Right. First diction exercise is to get some tongue twisters and play with them. Now, you'll wonder what I mean by playing with them. Hopefully you can see me, Nanny. Right. I've just done Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's a peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Okay. That's a good diction exercise because it gets your mouth working better. Now, another way of doing it, if you take a finger, now, I was taught a different way, but this is my modification of what Cicely Berry, Dame Cicely Berry, CBE, the great voice coach, Shakespeare coach in the world, taught me in 1962. That's a brownie point, you see, and that's a story. Anyway, what I used to have to do is put a bone prop between my teeth, and it's a little bit of ivory about this tall, right, that you wedge between your teeth. It's got a slot in the top, slot in the bottom. I'm sorry, but I'm not insured to do that with an audience. Can you imagine if somebody choked on it? It would cost me an absolute fortune. However, what they can do is you take one finger, Nanny, right? You take one finger and you fold it in half, right? And you put it between your
sideways?
teeth. Yeah.
Sideways.
Yeah,
that
and
way.
Don't bite too hard.
Sideways.
Yeah, fold it in half. Yeah. Fold it in. So you point at the sky, fold it over, and put it between your teeth. Right? Now you're holding it in your teeth. Now do Peter Piper.
Yeah. Okay. My mouth's watering.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, but what it does, it trains your tongue to work harder. I say. So that's the first diction exercise. That one. It's very, very powerful. Nanny, I promise you. Do Peter Piper with your knuckle between your teeth, and then the other one to do is.
I do that one with the kids.
Now, what that does, it loosens up your tongue. Oh, well, that's fine, yeah. Yeah, well, you've got wonderful diction anyway, Cindy, so shut up. And the next one you do is bah,
Ah, yes.
Because what that does, it stretches your
sorry
cheeks,
for anybody who's tuning in right now.
Stretch. Right. And then the other one, which is a great one, is okay. Now it takes a little while to learn to do it, but it means your tongue is much looser. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And then another one, which I've got to be careful I don't wake everybody up in London, but it's wee. Now, what that does, it gets your voice to go scaling up and down smoothly, and also gets your lips stretched, right? Okay. And then another one, the one I normally start with an audience, which gets people laughing. You take your hands, right, by your sides, okay? These are diction exercises. Believe it or not, Nanny, this is diction. And you put your hands up above your head, right, with your palms out like that. So you're actually having your hands like that above your head, right? So you come from the side and you go up as you breathe in, right? And then breathe out, okay? No, level with your head, Cindy.
Sorry,
God, you're useless. Right, like that, okay? And then, they are bendy, aren't they? Okay, now you do that twice. Yeah, she is. That should be fun for Chris. Anyway, then the third time you do it, you do a big moan as you breathe out, okay? And then the next thing to do is the next diction exercise.
Okay.
Moan. Right. Yeah, I've had some fantastic women doing it in audiences. It's been brilliant.
Okay. Right.
It's been really good.
Well, I'm not going to do it here.
It's got them very happy. There's a lot of stuff about
Tony Robbins does that. He's deliberate about it. He's all right, deep breath in. Now a nice sexual moan. Everybody goes crazy.
Yeah, it works though. Yeah, I don't say sexual. Right. It's far too intimate and obvious. Yeah. Anyway, the next one to do is after you've done all of those, your rib cage would have been stretched, your lips and cheeks would have been stretched. Okay. So everything's now ready and your tongue's been working. And then what you do, you get your lips together gently and you hum. Now, the whole point of humming is that your lips should tickle. If they don't tickle, they're not relaxed enough.
Yeah.
And hopefully, the end of your nose, I know it'll work for Cindy, the end of your nose will itch as well. Yeah. That means you've got resonance now. Everything is now working.
Because I will say, when I'm stressed, you don't get that. You cannot feel like the end of your nose. It's sort of like...
no.
So for me, it's a good way to kind of, okay, if I can hum and I can feel that tingle at the end of the nose, which is something really kind of weird, or that warmth, the vibration, and I know that I'm relaxed. If I can't, then it's like, okay, take a bit of time out, chill down, go and do something different. Because at least when you're not so stressed, you can actually carry on thinking a lot easier and quicker.
The funny thing is, I've known Cindy for 10 or 11 years now. I've never even thought about training Cindy and using her voice because it's so good already. There's no reason, no point. I never tried to get her money.
You've known me for a week, and you're like, "Oh my God, I can make some money with this guy."
No. What you're doing, Frank? There's another thing which you don't need to do, Cindy, but you could, Frank, is focus on. If you take the finger and thumb, right, of one hand, and Nanny might need this as well.
This was a good exercise.
And you put them on the sides of your neck. Okay. Yeah. And when you speak, make sure those muscles aren't tense. Okay, those muscles at the side are not tense. Don't kill yourself. Well, you can if you like, but I'm not insured. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my God! You want those muscles to be really, really relaxed when you speak.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's it. You see? See us.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually doing a class, or a recorded, audio class with Roger Love. You familiar with him? Yeah, so he talks a lot about finding your middle voice. And
me.
Exercises on the first one, like gug, 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 gug. He does, and mo, and up,
mo. Yeah. Yeah. Moo. Yeah. Roger Love is good. Yeah, I've got his set of.
Right.
He trained Barbara Streisand and Tony Robbins. Yep. Yeah. Roger Love is good. I'm good as well. Okay. Roger Love is good. He's one of the few that I recommend. Really. There are about 10 I recommend. Roger is definitely one of them. And Gary Gennard is another one. Oh, he's an ex-Shakespearean actor. What a surprise. And Doug Stevenson, I recommend, with his story theatre. Oh, he's an ex-Shakespearean actor. Oh, what a surprise.
What was the first guy that you mentioned? I'm just going to write his name down and Google it. Doug Stevenson and the guy you mentioned before that.
Which one? There's Doug Stevenson, there's Roger Love.
I've seen
Edwin Coppard, who's great fun. He's a singing coach.
Early 90s.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I used to use Edwin for the Yes Group in London. He's nutty. And I've done exercises with Edwin, and he's great. He's terrible to get on stage, though, because he wanders off. But Edwin is fun. He'll just disappear. You have to go and grab him. And I've done some of his full-day workshops. Edwin is amazing. I mean, he's really, really seriously amazing. I recommend him.
You recommended another Shakespearean actor.
Who else was I recommending? I can't remember now.
Gary Gennard.
Gary Gennard.
Zhenard.
That's him. He's in America. He's in New York. Gary Gennard. Oh, okay. Well, look him up, Gary Gennard, and say Fergus said to call him. You'll find him easily. He's a lovely bloke, and he's a very, very good voice coach.
But whilst we've got Ricky here, have we answered all your questions, Ricky?
Okay.
About with speaking.
Have you answered them? Are we still on record, by the way? I can't tell because I'm on my.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Hang on. I've got to answer Nanny's last question.
Oh.
I've got to answer Nanny's last question, which is important. About straining the voice. Okay. No, this is important. This is very important for Nanny.
And have you guys covered accents? No, we haven't covered accents.
No. You have to think of when you speak. You have to have your throat really open, like you're breathing on a mirror. Okay? When you speak, it's the same as when you sing. You think an opera singer will not lose their voice in 4 hours. They won't. And it's because their throat is open. And it's the thing Frank needs to do is think of having your throat open when you speak. Now, my throat is very open. I'm not doing this.
It's just relaxing.
I'm doing this.
Yeah, I know I get tense and I constrict my muscles and probably my vocal cords as well.
It's completely relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are now.
No, I appreciate
They are
the feedback.
now. I'm not being rude, Frank.
Feedback.
No.
Just focus on open. Focus on open. And so for Nanny, you won't lose your voice if you keep it open.
Yeah.
I can't
and
do
I will
accents
say
today.
that
I'll do
little trick
accents
has
another time, I
helped,
promise you.
because since you taught me that 3-4 weeks ago, now when I shout at the kids, I do it with a relaxed voice. And I'm not actually losing my voice so much.
Yeah.
And now when I'm also speaking and presenting, I'm also tending to relax the voice more as well. It's taken some time to get the hang of it, but now I'm sort of like going, am I straight? Is this? And it's a really good, powerful one, along with the other one as well. But
I know. I learned that one from my friend Anita, actually, because when I was working out new exercises to do, and she's the AD. She's the AD. She sees through everything, which has been very helpful in creating some of my CDs.
cool.
So now, Fergus, you're in London, correct?
So yeah, keep it open. I am indeed, yes, Frank. You can come over here for some training.
I'd like
I don't
to.
mind.
Next time I'm in London, I have a friend going over there. I think next month. Maybe I'll have him look you up.
Okay.
Sure, I'm easy to find. If people are going to give me money, I'm very easy to find.
Yes, the buggers that want the money, that's a different story.
Hey, by the way, just because you guys
Yeah.
are on Blab, and I've seen you last week on Blab, I found out about a new resource, and this guy, Troy, I forget his name, but I'll post the link while you guys talk about the next topic. He's come up with a new tool that you can schedule your Blabs. It's kind of like a Blab TV guide so that people can see upcoming Blabs and sort them out.
Yeah, I
So
saw him.
It's called the Blab channel, and I'll post the link here unless you continue. But I just got on as a beta, and I recommend that you guys do as well because you've got great content. It gives you another way to promote it.
Yeah, that's why he actually approached me.
Thanks, Frank.
Hang on.
Cindy will deal with that.
Hang
Cindy
on.
will do all that
What was you
stuff.
saying, Ricky?
Troy Humphreys?
You're fading in and out.
What's his name?
Ricky, go. What, Troy's?
Troy. Oh, yeah, Troy. Yeah, Troy. He
Troy.
approached me the other day about the same thing, He said he likes my show and he wants to chuck it on there, and I was like, oh, okay. It's pretty interesting. I reckon it'll work out for you guys.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have a look at it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
It was something about, because I read that Brian Tracy book, and it talks about like in the Power of Charm, it talks about singling people out. You know, it's about like being more successful, whether you try to like be more successful in business. It's about getting like what you want, being assertive to getting it just by like the way you sort of come across, and you know, like the little hand flicks and the head tilts, and you know, like they talk about all that in the book, and I was pretty blown away that you brought his name up. But I overheard you talking about walking into the crowd, and like I do that sometimes, like when I'm like working with like larger crowds, you know, like I might walk into the crowd, I might find a girl and she'll be singing the song, I'll give her the microphone just to sing a couple words from the song, and then maybe make with the crowd on stage. But how do you go about walking into a crowd that's like stagnant? You know what I mean? They're generally sitting there because like everyone's jumping around when I'm doing it, but like for you, it's like if I walked into a crowd that's stagnant like that, I'd be a little bit frightened because, well, you're the energy and they're not a crowd you can really feed off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fine. I feed off myself. I mean, I know it sounds terrible, but I've had a crowd of 60 very senior lawyers in a breakfast meeting in a basement in London. And after 10 or 15 minutes, I had them up and down, jumping around, doing exercises and laughing. It's about how you share with people, basically, because they thought, he's come to give me some good stuff. It doesn't matter how stagnant they are at the beginning. They want to learn. They want to experience. They want to grow. Otherwise, they're not there. So they want me to be good. That's what I always think. They want me to be good. They want me to share stuff with them. And that's the only reason I'm there to share stuff with them.
But it's how you share it. Because then we're coming
that.
back down to speaker or presenter.
Yeah.
A presenter will share the information dry. a speaker, a professional person, is the guy who gets them engaged.
Exactly.
Before then sharing the information.
And motion drives
with
emotion and engagement.
And it has to start with yourself. So if you're actually passionate about your own topic, then it's easier for that to come through.
Okay, here's an example. There's a friend of mine and Cindy's who couldn't be here today, John, and I had him doing a wonderful presentation for about 200 people from a very, very large bank. And it was the day that they got the day before they got their annual bonuses, and I was doing an auction for a charity. I raised £27,000 that night. Most of them were drunk, basically, which did help. And they knew they were getting their annual bonus the next day.
If you were there 2 days later, you might have gotten 50,000.
No, I probably would have got nothing because it had been hungover. But our mutual friend John said, Fergus, I couldn't have done what you did because he was a presenter. He's an absolutely brilliant presenter. You know who I'm talking about, Cindy. He's a great presenter, and he's just learned to do workshops. I had 200 odd people in a room, and I had to get them to give money to a charity for somebody to climb Everest, walk up Everest, really. And it was for a really good charity. And I just worked the room, and I was really quite outrageous at times, but it worked because I got them excited because I played with them. And by 10 o'clock at night, they said, "Yeah, I've £800. What's it for?" I said, "Well, it's for that over there." "Yeah, okay, I'll give 800. And it went up and up and up because I played with them, and it's about playing. So what Ricky's talking about, and that's the difference between a speaker and a presenter. Because our mutual friend John couldn't have done it. And he said, Fergus, I couldn't have done what you did tonight. I just couldn't. And he's starting to do workshops now, this man. And he's absolutely brilliant as a presenter. I mean, he's a really funny, fantastic presenter, speaker. But he's not a workshopper. He's not the player with the audience. And he's just learning it now.
When I spoke to him, a lot of his information is what I call top level. And there's not the depth there. So, of course, how can you then transform from a presenter to a speaker? As in a speaker, without actually having that depth of knowledge to actually follow what he's doing. And that's what stops a lot of people, because when you come to an audience, a tough audience, it's like, oh, heck, how am I actually going to deal with this? And most people run because they know full well they're going to be exposed within a couple of minutes.
Actually, I think you've just hit it, Cindy. It's not about the difference between a speaker and a non-speaker. I've just been talking with you, and nobody knows who it is, about a wonderful presenter of fantastic stuff, who's great at presenting fantastic stuff. I mean, he's really, really stunningly wonderful. And it's all prepared beforehand. That's not the same as being a speaker on any topic. And I think there's a difference between being a presenter of your content and a speaker.
Well, that like also, like, I want to talk about one more point. Ask you a question. It's I wrote it down because I always forget things, so I always write things down. Like oh, that's a good point. I want to bring that up. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I call them breakers. So basically, like when I walk into a crowd, you know, it's sort of like, because you work in a crowd, like in a high activity situation, can be quite hard, especially when you're trying to break the crowd. So like we like. Sometimes I might say something that's like funny, random, or very coarse to get the attention of my crowd. And then what it does is it actually breaks the moment so that I can get myself in, and then I can deliver. It really.
To be honest, Ricky, I know Ricky, looking at you and listening to you, you've got presence. You will win with any audience. You've got presence. That's what it is. You've got presence. You put your hat round the wrong way. You shout, "Hey, everybody!" And Frank's seen Tony do it lots of times. You can grab any audience.
But he also knows the perfect moment to do it. Thinking. And there's kind of a natural trait. There's a lot of people who are desperate to actually learn that. And in actual fact, sometimes it's not a learnt trait. It's something you either sort of like you get it or you don't.
Yeah, well, like sometimes, like, because like it's part of reading the crowd, you know, like people like, you know, they're bopping their head or something like what I was meaning is like those are my breakers for like high activity situations, so everyone's sort of like really active and like people saying woohoo, yay, all that sort of stuff. It's easy like for me, but like what I do find hard is when I can't feed off of them because they're not giving the same sort of cues to sort of bite onto. And like for me, like that's like could you give me like an example of what you would use as a crowd breaker or like making sure that the crowd is listening to you, like that you've got their like, so if you could give me like an example of them, you know.
Okay, I can't, given that it's after 11 o'clock at night, I can't really do it loudly here, but I've done this lots of times. And you go, okay, everybody, now we're going to do something that's really good. So sit down, shut up, and let's get going. It works. It's sort of like,
you're pushing the
it works
to the edge a little bit for your crowd.
Yeah, total control.
That's awesome.
Take
Absolutely.
control.
It's all about taking control.
I'm going to throw a little state break, hypnotic language pattern that works every time. It's just like, first you get the visual cue. You got to get people paying attention. Get your hands up in the air and say, stop. Everybody stop right now. Stop. When you're saying stop, it's kind of like, it stops the unconscious brain from all your stories and patterns and makes everybody pay attention because you think something important is going to happen. So whenever you say next, people will be paying attention.
We'll do that next week.
Stop and stand up right now. Stop and, it's time to eat. When you say that stop, Tylenol use this in their advertising. It's like stop, think Tylenol. Because they know that they're freezing your brain for a second. Whatever they say next is going to go boom, right into your subconscious, and they're going to have your attention, if only for a couple of milliseconds or whatever.
Well, we're going to do state changes and state anchors next week.
Yeah,
it's too late to be doing it today. We will be doing that next week.
Next week,
it will be. And Frank can be here with us, and Ricky as well.
Absolutely. It's definitely about getting their attention. I know that there have been some that I've done, and you should just start with, whilst you're sort of like feeling out the room, I have said, I have a dream. You start that bit, and they just stop, and they go, okay, I know that speech. Where are we going with this then? And then you just kind of throw it completely and say, we'll fight them on the beaches.
I'll wait in the chat. Thank you guys for...
and it's just sort of like, because then it can lead into say, well, these are powerful speeches that have been going for 60 and 80 years and they're still going. Does your speech have that same impact?
Yeah, okay. Nanny, same time next week, 9 p.m. UK time. We'll be doing state anchors and stage anchors and all that sort of thing. Can't do it now because we finished now, but you've had 2 hours of us, so you'll be very happy, I'm sure. Yeah. And now poor Chris is going to edit it all.
Absolutely.
Never mind.
I'll tell you what, because we've been for 2 hours, let's wrap it up now, and then we can have a carry-on quick chat afterwards, and also get a schedule for next week as well with this state as well. So
okay.
Let's chat next week.
Okay.
See you soon, Fergus.
Yep.